here today with comic book artist Chris Marrinan. Chris Marrinan is known for Nova. He's known for Spider-Man, both at Marvel Comics. He has done some of his own independent stuff at Image Comics, along with Wildstar. So, ladies and gentlemen of the comic book community, please welcome Mr. Chris Marrinan.
Hi, thanks for having me, Tyrone.
You are welcome, sir. You are welcome. Now, I know who you are. You and I have a good relationship. We've worked together. Actually, Chris has actually done some art for me, some commission art, and he's actually done some art for me for a kid's book that I'm currently working on. So Chris and I have a very good rapport and friendship with each other. But I want Chris to give you guys out in the comic book community a little background on how we got started and some of his notable work that he likes the most. So Chris, go ahead and take it away.
Oh, thanks, Tyrone. Yeah, what I originally, when I graduated from art school, I was headed more into like commercial art career, even though I was reading a lot of comics. I used to draw comics just as my own sketches, and so that influence showed in my portfolio. And I was encouraged by people that I knew to pursue that, including people I shared a studio with who were already in comics. So I started out sending samples of my work, Xerox samples of my work, to Marvel and DC and other smaller publishers. And that's who hired me at first, was Eclipse Comics, one of the smaller ones, but well known at the time. I don't know if you've heard of them.
I do know Eclipse. I did not know you worked for Eclipse Comics.
Yeah, that's how I started. But I knew some of the other artists that were working there already too, and doing good work with them. That was pretty notable, like Thomas Yates and a bunch of other people. I'm blanking on it. But yeah, some good books were coming out of there. So anyway, I did the Champions for them, which is based on a role-playing game. And not the Marvel Champions, but a different role-playing game. And I did that, and when that miniseries ended, that same guy that was doing those comics, writing them, became his own publisher. And so I started working for him. That was Hero Comics.
Okay.
Which is now called Heroic Publications. Anyway, I kept sending samples of the stuff I was doing for him to Marvel and DC, and that's when eventually DC saw something in that work that would fit in with the Wonder Woman storyline that George was doing right then. And George was drawing, and from there, I worked for DC on Wonder Woman for a while, and then I jumped over to Marvel Comics and worked on various books there.
So we're going to get into your time at Marvel, mainly because the MCU is just blowing the hinges off of the silver screen, right? So we have Nova has already appeared. You've worked on Nova for a very extensive run. Carnage has appeared. At this point, the only really big character that you haven't done over at Marvel would be Cardiac, and you did an origin story with him. You did a cameo of Carnage. So we're talking about issues Amazing Spider-Man 359 and 360. Those are pretty big books at this point. Those are high collectability. When you guys went into creating a new character, how deep did you guys get into this character? Was there talk about how the character would change and add to, in this case, the Spider-Man history down the line in the future?
Not on my end. I mean, I think that was more between the writer and Mark Bagley, who was the ongoing penciler for Amazing Spider-Man.
Right.
And I did a couple of those were fill-in kind of issues, even though it was introducing a major character. I don't know if anybody realized how big and how popular Carnage was going to become.
Right.
I just thought, oh, he's not going to replace Venom,
Right. And all of a sudden he's on the silver screen.
Yeah.
The book is highly sought after. So, that must make you feel good that, even though these were fill-in issues for you, until you ended up in your own Spider-Man title later on, where you did more of a Spider-Man run, which we'll get to. That must make you feel pretty happy, pretty proud that you had a hand in creating the history and the origin of this character.
Yeah, I was excited about it for sure. I mean, once I started realizing when it started picking up momentum, and I wish I still had some of the original art for that.
Yeah.
I didn't at the time, just didn't realize the importance of it, the significance of that character yet. Um, and I knew, that they had more developed artwork of, but uh, they wanted me just to show him partially, and not give the full visual of him so that they could lead in and tantalize the readers.
Right. I think that was the theme, right? To take a
Yeah.
book that was already in existence and drop a cameo and into that book to keep people going, to see if that character would, I guess, test well enough to get its own, to get his or own book. I mean, listen, at this point, I know me personally, I'm waiting for Cardiac to appear in the MCU. I don't know how far off that is, that Dr. Wortham, if I remember correctly, if he's ever going to show up. But boy, that would just do it well. I mean,
I'm surprised that hasn't happened already. He's really an interesting guy, a really interesting character, and and visually it's pretty spectacular. So
yeah. I mean, how much did you have into creating the powers, the backstory of those characters, or was it all left up to the main creative team?
That was something that I think Eric Larson designed the look of the character, and I think he just did that together with the writer, who I believe was David Michelini.
Right.
So I just picked up where those guys left off, and
right.
tried to stay true to the what was already established.
Yeah. Were you able to give any input into, say, how Carnage should look or how Cardiac should look? Were you able to do any of that stuff, or was it just all done and it was a package and you just picked that package up and kept it going?
Yeah, they were pretty established. I mean, I can't even remember how much visual preview I had of Carnage before I drew that, because in my drawings it's just like, it looks like kind of the Venom character, because you're only seeing little bits of him, except in red, and and he had more fangs and stuff like that, but I didn't know much more than that. I think they really gave me just his human incarnation looked like.
Right.
I ran with that, and then just kind of conjectured what Carnage was supposed to look like.
Yeah. And listen, they did not hold back in that movie. They made it as big a movie as they possibly could. Now, you mentioned working with Eric Larson. You've worked with him before. How did you two meet up? Because Eric Larson did a massive and very important run on Spider-Man as well. He also created a ton of characters for Marvel.
Yeah, quite a few. He and I shared a studio back in the late 80s, mid to late 80s. When he came in, he was already doing work with Eclipse, I believe, and on the DN agents. And then he started getting work at DC doing the Doom Patrol. So I was watching that stuff fly off his desk as it was created. And, as he moved up the ladder at DC and then to Marvel. So it was a pretty exciting time. He was still kind of learning too, and I was learning myself and learning from watching him and just from being in my own monthly comics. Also, it was a pretty good environment there for learning the trade and for evolving all our individual styles, because we would we would get there, we'd get behind each other and criticize what the other guy was doing and question some of their decisions.
Yeah.
And it was sort of a fun thing, really. We did it not in a mean way,
right?
Because that's how a lot of times it's how artists or people in any field will have a little bit of a competitive edge going. At the same time, they're helping each other. Really.
Right. Yeah, that's listen, learning
Books,
from each other is absolutely, and I can absolutely, especially when it comes to Wildstar and some of your Spider-Man pages, I can definitely see that there is an Eric Larson influence in that. Is that something that was done purposely, or was it something you kind of really liked about him? So you're like, I'm going to kind of use some of that style in mine, or was it like just kind of an accident?
It was a little both. I mean, I just kind of soak in, whatever appeals to me, and his stuff. Yeah, I mean, the enthusiasm he had, and the stuff that he was doing, and some of the other influences that he had, um, appealed to me as well. And we shared alike, for a lot of different artists, mainly Jack Kirby, and
Yeah, that influence is there.
yeah, right. So right, so there was that. And at the same time, I was still trying to develop my own style as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, his I think mainly what I picked up on was his enthusiasm
Yeah,
for the whole medium,
yeah.
and just the way that he was kind of making leaps and bounds, into that whole comics scene with the bigger publishers.
Right, right. And so you jumped from Amazing Spider-Man to Spider-Man, did a pretty good number of issues there. Now, was that solely because they liked what you did on Amazing that they brought you into Spider-Man, or was it? I know Eric Larson did Amazing, and then he ended up doing
Right.
Spider-Man as well.
I think part of it was just whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to jiggle that. The they knew that I was shared a studio with him and with some other artists, so I think they kind of picked up on that whole energy that was going on, and they just said, oh, this guy can handle it. They could see that I was doing monthly books, and that I was reliable, and they liked the kind of that same kind of dynamic feeling that I was putting into my work. So I knew the editor that Eric, the editor that I ended up working with on Spider-Man was the same one that was working with Eric. So he knew me through that channel as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it really comes down to how well can you draw Spider-Man,
Right.
look like
Which
Spider-Man.
clearly you could, and do it well, I might add.
Thank you. And how can you tell a story? It's a lot of it is how you tell the story, how you follow the script, from panel to panel, page to page. Does it pull the reader along? And that always has to figure into whether you get hired on a book or not.
Right, right.
So that's how it worked. And I should add that before I did Amazing, I did 2 issues of Web of Spider-Man. That was my first lead into working on Spider-Man. And I think
okay.
it may have been a different editor then. That may have been, his name escapes me at the moment.
Yeah, I also know you did a really good, I don't know how many issues it was, and I think it was Marvel Comics Presents. You did a Wolverine story, if I remember correctly. 'Cause I actually own a double page spread. I got that from you. I actually own a double page spread of that book, which I think the details in that is just amazing. I really like your details. I said this to you before. I really like your details, and when certain people ink you, it really, really comes out.
Thanks.
So I am definitely, as you already know, I'm definitely a big fan. Well, also in switching titles, Nova Corps has appeared. Guardians of the Galaxy, very big following. People really like it. It's hopefully it's coming back again.
Right.
How did you end up doing Nova over at Marvel?
Well, the same editor, Danny Fingeroth, that was doing the Spider-Man books, wanted to launch Nova, and initially they had me doing a New Warrior fill-in, an issue of New Warriors, and then I did some backup stories in of New Warriors annual. I forget which number, number 9, I believe, and so that was kind of to see how well I would handle that character. I didn't realize this at the time, but
Right.
they were using it to say, well, let's have them do Nova. So, that was not me talking to them necessarily. I think that was just something that they had in mind, and they knew that I did have an appreciation for Nova. And so so they decided let's have Chris launch the title.
Yeah, I think your appreciation for Nova is really underselling that. I think you had probably a very big love and major fondness for Nova because, you know, it popped off the pages. The panels were good. I mean, Nova is just a spectacular book. And I know it is because I'm not a Nova fan. And that's kind of how I measure someone's writing or someone's art. Like if I'm not a big fan of that character, but I see, or I can read the story and see the panels and see how the art fits the actual story, then I'm more of a person, I'll get drawn into that story. And that's kind of what I did. So again, not a big Nova fan at all, nowhere near it. But as I saw the story in the books, as I also saw your pencils in the original art, it really said, okay, I can see how you're really diving into this character, diving into the space stories. You know, your city scenes are really good. So I think you did a spectacular job on Nova. Any chance of getting back to Nova and or the Spider-Man titles in the future?
There's always that possibility. You know, I don't know any of the people that are, you know, in editorial positions at Marvel these days. And that was, you know, that's been decades now.
Right.
So, you know, I mean, they're aware of my work. I'm sure they you know, especially now with you know, more and more emphasis being placed on movies and those characters from the Nova Corps appearing in Guardians of the Galaxy. There's that possibility they'd be looking back at old issues and saying, well, you know, we should use this or that storyline or character from the book. But beyond that, I don't know. I have not reached out to them, and I haven't heard from them as well.
I mean, I can tell you with the number of space stories that are coming up with the expansion of Star Wars, I can clearly see how Nova could kind of fit right in there, along with bringing in another Guardians of the Galaxy type story in there. But you know, Marvel has the characters to keep that thing going for a very, very long time.
I think so. Yeah, there's a lot of potential for it, the way just on its own, and the way it fits in with the other storylines of the other characters that are coming out now, and whatever phase they're in now.
Yeah. Well, let's switch tracks again. Let's go over to Image. So you were with Eric Larson before Image actually started. Was there any talk to get you to go with him when they started? When the Magnificent Seven started, were there any plans to bring you over after, or how did that
yeah, I did have the opportunity when he was first doing the Dragon book. He had the backup story of Super Patriot in the back, and he asked me if I wanted to do that. I don't know if this is even common knowledge now. And of course, very talented artist Dave Johnson did it instead. This is before he became the super duper cover artist that he is now.
Yeah.
And so well known for 100 Bullets covers.
Yeah, those good. And he also did those covers, and I think he did Batman covers. There's some really good Batman covers.
So yeah, I had that opportunity, but I was at the time I believe I was working on the Spider-Man books, and you know, one of the titles, I probably, you know, Spider-Man, adjectiveless Spider-Man. At that point, I'm trying to remember when exactly Image came out. When they
it's 92.
92. Okay. Yeah, that means, yeah, I was still kind of early on Marvel, and I didn't want to
rock the boat too much.
I didn't want to risk deadlines.
Yeah.
First of all, deadlines. and as well, yeah, they'd say, "Wow, what are you're working for our competition?" I mean, I didn't know what their reaction would be, so I didn't go there at that time, and I just wasn't. I was still so anxious about making a good impression with Marvel and its characters that I opted not to do that. Even though, yeah, it would have been a smart move for me.
Yeah. So you eventually end up sorry, I cut you off.
That's all right. Go ahead.
You eventually end up at Image, and you did a book
First, I did the Wild Star miniseries.
Wildstar miniseries, and that was originally created by Ordway and
Al Gordon.
Al Gordon, who I've happened to meet both of those guys. You did that miniseries.
Right.
And then you had your own creator thing for a little bit. So let's talk a little bit about Wildstar and then your own creator-owned stories and art, or books, excuse me.
Yeah, so I just finished up my run on Nova. Nova ended up getting canceled by issue 18, I think. I think I did up to issue 17. And, sales were just not high enough for Marvel to keep it going, even though they would kill to have sales like that now.
Yeah.
37,000 copies back then was not enough to warrant running a comic.
Wow, 37,000, wow.
Now they'd kill to have that. But anyway, so I didn't have anything slated with Marvel right then. So I said, well, I want to do this book. I was offered by Al to do the pencils on Wildstar, the second miniseries.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I was all about that. I really wanted to be part of the Image crew and part of that whole, that new comics kind of explosion that was coming up. It was influencing the industry. And so I put extra time into every page, every panel. I really wanted
it shows.
Shine. I wanted to go, I just wanted to take a step or a couple of steps beyond what I was doing for the big two.
Right.
And so, I think it really helped me, to explore, what I could really do with that medium. And, and I think Al felt the same way. Al, the inker, writer and inker, put a lot. He put 120% into his inks on that, and just really brought it up.
Yeah, I definitely have to say, I mean, Wildstar is one of those obscure characters that, again, I didn't know a great deal about until I started doing a lot of, diving in and hunting about those rare books and things that you've done. And yeah, the Wildstar panels are beautiful. I mean, you actually had Super Patriot in one of the Wildstar books.
Yeah. Mighty Man.
Mighty Man, sorry, it's not Super Patriot, right. Super Patriot is the android.
He's a guy with mostly mechanical parts.
Right. Or cyborg android. Yeah.
I forget. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I did say Mighty Man. That was a beautiful cover. The Wildstar and Mighty Man cover.
Mighty Man that was a lot of fun. Yeah. I had a lot of fun with that book and the supporting characters and just being a part of that whole, the Image scene, was huge for me. Yeah.
And then you jumped over to your own creator own title.
Later on, I saw that, there was a lot of success with the black and white books that Image was doing. And I had my own idea of something I wanted to do. So I created these characters, the headhunters, who were, operating in a kind of a semi-legal kind of fashion, working with law enforcement, but as bounty hunters. And I just wanted to see where I could take that. So I put a lot of time into the first issue thinking this will probably be it. It may not go beyond this, but the sales were so unexpectedly great for that that it's like, well, of course I'm going to do a second issue. So I had to really, just double time it, pull in, just summon up all of the energy I had to second and third issue as well. So yeah, it went that far. After that, the sales, it's tough when you're doing your own title and that is you're putting all your work into it, because if you don't have any other form of income, you have to decide, can I keep doing this if the sales aren't and the orders for the book don't warrant it. So I had, after the third issue, I had to stop doing it.
So how many issues was it originally slated for? Do you remember?
Oh, just as long as sales kept going.
Oh, so you were just going based on sales. You're going to keep this thing going.
Yeah. Okay. I had story ideas, and I had characters, that I hadn't even used yet. that I wanted to put in there. So the thing is, yeah, with the retailers, they are the ones that drive the initial sales figures. So they will, even if they sell out, that doesn't mean they're going to order a bunch more of the second issue.
Right.
Really, what they do is they cut orders in half for the second issue, and then whatever number they order of that is they'll order half of that for the third issue.
Right.
So it's a tough business.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you're doing it on your own, you're relying solely on, back then you're relying on what Diamond Previews have their catalog. They're the distributor, and that was the only avenue for getting your books out to the
Right.
retail.
Because I think prior to that, there was a comic book distributor in Florida that ended up closing its doors, right?
I'm not aware. By the time I was doing my image book, I think Diamond was it. Or
Right, right. I think I'm right. Maybe I got what state wrong, but I knew there was another pretty big
there may have been other
distributor that ended up closing its doors.
Diamond was, what we all depended on mainly.
Yeah. So with that, Headhunters, it's Image's 30th anniversary coming around, right? I think it's already here. I know there's a new Shadowhawk. I know Rob Liefeld did a remastered Prophet. Philip Tan and Jimmy Valentino did a new Shadowhawk that recently came out. Any chance for Wildstar Headhunters 30th anniversary, new story, remastered?
I don't know. Well, if it's this year, I don't think it's going to happen, because
right.
This year's we're more than halfway done already.
Right,
so
right.
I don't see that happening. I mean, I have enough stuff, in the works already that's not part of it. I would love to revisit those characters for sure. Or
maybe even a Headhunters Wildstar crossover, one shot.
Yeah, why not? Okay. I do crossover with just about anybody, of the
right.
But it's and that's one of the things we were talking about doing, in the long run, is having my characters cross over with some of the other characters back then, in the late 90s. But currently, there's other projects that may get some movement this year, at least in the beginning stages. That I'm working with a couple of people.
Okay.
And now, speaking of only having one avenue of getting published back then with Diamond Previews, now we have, of course, Kickstarters and Indiegogo and Zoop and other places like that are doing crowdfunded type projects.
Right.
That's all these other avenues of getting our work. Plus, we have, there's just the internet in general for publishing work. So
yeah, well, as a budding writer, I published my poetry book. I got other few books coming out, and I'm always writing comic book stories. Maybe you and I can team up on a one shot or something. I'd definitely be into that.
I would love to do that. Okay.
I would definitely be into that. So let's kick it over to DC. We know we lost the great George Perez this year.
Right.
May he rest in power. Changed the face of comics, comic writing, super spread pages, the number of characters on a spread page. He just blew it all out of the water. How was it working with him? And how did you talked previously about how, DC saw something in you that fit with what they're doing. How was it that they decided, okay, it's going to be Wonder Woman? Did George Perez see your art and pull you in? How did that happen, and you working with him all kind of come together?
Yeah, he was familiar with my work, and I had been going to DC a couple times just to interview before I'd gotten any actual work with them. And I knew some of the editors there already, thanks to some of my studio mates, who were already working with DC, and so I knew some of them, and they knew me by my name, by a first name basis, and they were familiar with my work. And the storyline I was working on with the champions at the time was it showing some of the characters on Mount Olympus in this kind of Greek mythological setting. So they're going, this kind of fits in with what we're doing with Wonder Woman because of her ties with Greek mythology. And they could see a lot of the same imagery.
Oh, okay.
There. So they said, let's give this guy a try. He looks like he's reliable. He could get the book in on time. So George said he told me that he was one of my supporters for taking over.
That's big. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was, he admired what I was doing, and he gave me a lot of support. Once I started working on the book with him, he supported me in some of the fan press, places like that. So I felt a lot more comfortable in knowing that, because at the same time I was really nervous about working on such a huge flagship title like that, and following. Of course, it's tough when you're a beginning artist and you're following one of the top artists in the industry.
Yeah.
At the time, if not the top artist at that time, it's like, wow, this is big shoes to fill. So it's a pretty exciting time for me. But George was nothing but gracious, generous, really helpful with ideas, and he listened to my ideas. I helped create some characters with him, and he gave support to one of the characters I wanted to create, Shimtar, who went on to be a character who popped up from time to time in some of the later Wonder Woman books after I was no longer on the title. So that was kind of cool. He was a great guy to work with. And
so was that relationship similar to what you and Eric Larson had? Was he also looking over your shoulder? You guys, him giving you pointers, you giving him pointers?
A little bit, not as much, because he was on the other side of the continent for me. I mean, he wasn't in the same studio with me ever. He would from time to time he would actually go in and redraw and then ink some of the characters, just the supporting characters, not Wonder Woman, but like some of the supporting characters. He really had a certain idea of how he wanted them to look. Like in some cases, I made Steve Trevor look a little too young, and he wanted him to look a little bit like he really could have been a World War II veteran at the time. And some of the other characters, he would just either age them or just change the character or their skull a little bit. Subtle, very subtle stuff. And that was it. Beyond that, he was very supportive of what I was doing all the time. Great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, really wonderful to work with. And like I said, he was open to my ideas too, and he would listen to me quite a bit.
So with Wonder Woman, that was kind of like a powerhouse title at DC at the time. How do you feel the title went as you were working on it? Do you feel like you got more comfortable with Wonder Woman and the Wonder Woman backstory? Do you feel like it became harder as you went along?
Well, it was only harder in that, I wanted to keep pushing my abilities and skills further. So I was always pushing myself to improve. I was still pretty new on the scene, new as a comic artist. So I wanted to, my thing was I wanted to do all the really fun action scenes and, have other superheroes guest starring and, all the flashy stuff that was, a lot of that stuff that was coming out at Image and Marvel at the time. And so I had to really kind of keep trying to stay focused on what George was doing, which is more the human interest side of the storylines that he was going after. So I was going, okay, this is more like, the human interest stories, like the girl friend of Wonder Woman and her mother, the girl going to high school.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I just have to do the best I can with this storyline and still make it the best I can do. So that's
right.
what I, and I think as the book progressed, that got much better than if I'd started off with that right at the beginning. That would have been a real challenge for me.
Right.
The beginning issues were more just about the action and a lot of the excitement. But So we got it more into the, the soap opera aspects of that, and I really
Right.
ran with it, and I think it really shows in those issues.
Yeah. So it sounds like you guys really were able to kind of bounce off of each other, whereas you wanted to do that big image action because that was literally ruling the market, right? And we're
Really
kind of
was.
back in that, arena right now in 2022. Whereas George wanted to go more so that, building the characterization of each individual character.
Right. Yeah. More the human, the non-superpowered characters, which, they had really good stories with them as well. So, he wanted to do that, and I was all for it. Once I realized, okay, the readers are really responding to this, let's do it.
Yeah.
At the same time, he introduced the cheetah while I was on the title. I mean, I guess he started it right before I came on, and then went in story while I was drawing it, and some of and their Amazons out of the Middle East, the Bonham McDowell, which he and I kind of co-created together based on his storyline. So I got to do all that, and that was huge for me to be part of something at the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, that's major. And again, so here we are. And again, as the viewers are watching, this is also new for me because I didn't know you and George actually did I have co-creating credits on some of the characters that are within Wonder Woman. So now it means for me, as the whole comic community knows, when I find something, I got to go hunt and find it. So if you guys are out there, make sure you are hunting and finding these different books that that are coming up that you're seeing. I'll do my best to try to. Actually, I'm not even going to do it. You can link directly to Chris Marrinan, who's also on Facebook and on Instagram, and he can give you all that backstory, and he can tell you which issues you should definitely be going out and hunting for. Did you and George ever get to a point where you guys ended up at a same convention together?
Yeah, years later. Is in the Bay Area, or was it the Bay Area? Or I forget if it was here or in Southern California. I think it was in the Bay Area, and it was some big convention. Oh, I think it was San Jose.
San Jose.
Pretty sure. Yeah, big Wow Comic Fest.
Okay, you might be right. I think I was at that one.
Yeah.
I think we were both at that one. Yeah.
Uh-huh. So yeah, it was cool. We got together a little bit and chatted for a while. It was a good reunion. Yeah.
So do you have any of these co-creations that you work with George, or is there any issue in Wonder Woman that you were like, man, I really nailed that book? Like, that's the one everybody should be getting because I love that one the most. Or even if it's with Spider-Man as well, or Nova.
Let me think. Well, I got to tell you, it's still one of my favorite Wonder Womans was my first issue, which was issue 25. And it had all that stuff that I enjoyed about comics, all the guest stars, the Justice League, parts of the Justice League were in it, and the Hawkmen and all this action going on and fighting aliens. It was part of a tie-in with a big storyline that was in all the DC comics right then. And so I just had a kick out of that, and I felt like that really went over well. After that, the storyline with the cheetah, I felt like was a real high point.
Okay.
But there was one later, I forget which number it was, where it's more of just the human characters. It's a lot of it is the girl. I can't even remember her name anymore. And her experiences with on a camp out with a bunch of the other school kids. I just went all out, and it has Wonder Woman in it. I went all out on that, and I think that was one that was inked by Romeo Tengal, and I think that was some of the best work that all three of us, George, Romeo, and I, did together.
And that's more of the lines of what George was writing, that human side of the character. Want to develop the character so the reader actually can lock in and key in on, I feel for this character, which makes people want to go in and buy the book and keep wanting to learn about that character.
Yeah, and I just felt like, wow, that this really went well. So that, for me, was of the Wonder Woman was a high point. So yeah, I mean, and then it was Spider-Man. It was probably issue 29, which is the first, the non-adjective Spider-Man.
Mhm.
That was a real pinnacle issue. And for Nova, I think I'm gonna go with issue. Let me see. Where did I think I'm gonna. It's the one where he had the guest stars. This is at this point I'm writing it too.
Right. Yeah. That's something that we're going to get into in the next segment of the story, because you actually did start writing right. and drawing Nova.
Correct.
So Chris, you have done it all, man. You've done Marvel, you've major character, Spider-Man, Nova, you've done DC, Wonder Woman. You've even did a Batman fill-in issue. I remember that. You actually told us some issues that I didn't even know about. You've done your independent thing, creator-owned. You are just literally taking on comics and the comic industry in every path and aspect that you can. But there's also a brand new thing that you're doing. You just did a dollar store. Did I say it right? You did a dollar store.
Tree.
Dollar Tree, excuse me. I know two of those companies bought each other or something like that, right? Two of them have bought each other. They've merged somehow. So you've done a Dollar Tree space military adventure comic. And why don't you tell us about that? And as of this week, I think you've done a San Francisco Giants comic book. So man, you are still moving and shaking. So give us a little background information on the Dollar Tree comic, because I know there's also a massive toy line that goes with that as well.
Yeah, it's called Final Faction, and they already had the action figure toys in their stores. They were established, and they'd already done some videos of their adventures, kind of animated CGI cartoons, and they're very successful. And they're for something back then they were still $1. Now they're $1.25. For that price, you're getting a pretty good quality. These things that articulate pretty well, and they have a lot of detail in their costumes. And
yeah, armor. I've actually picked up a few of the toys as well.
Oh, good. And so they decided this is worth doing a comic for, and I heard about it from some artist friends. And so I approached them and said, hey, I heard you're looking for an artist. You wanted to do a comic on this. I feel that I am, the right person to do it. And I have the skills and the know-how and the enthusiasm to carry it out. And they said, that's fantastic. Let's do it.
You definitely have the resume.
They were. And so they were very supportive right from the beginning. They had never done a comic before, so they would listen to me on things that on how things were done, using starting with the story that they already had the script, but doing the penciling and then the inking and the coloring and then the lettering. They were not quite as aware of how all that was done. So we were able to work together and bring it to fruition in about a month's time.
That's a big deal, because they're Dollar Trees in every major and minor city. So that's kudos to you, man. That's a big deal. Is there talk for issue 2 or issue 3 or another one shot or what?
There's still talks. They're still waiting for the numbers to come in on the first issue in all their stores. And I encourage your listeners and viewers to go out there and look and ask them if they have ordered them, if they have any in stock, and if they can possibly order more.
Yeah, I can tell you my experience. I actually went in looking for this comic book when you said, hey, I have this secret thing, I can't tell anybody about it. So I actually went to my Dollar Trees and looked, and I actually looked in 3 and I could not find them at all. I did find the toys, but I was unable to find the books. So what I continued my search, and then I found the books were actually located away from the toys. So
Right.
I think it might have been the third or fourth Dollar Tree that I went to. The books were somewhere else. And then I told the lady, hey, those toys and these books go together. You should try to find a display. So for those of you out there, definitely make sure you like, share, subscribe. But what we're going to do is Chris is going to sign a few copies of some Nova books, Spider-Man, Wonder Woman, and Final Faction. And what we're going to do is we're going to give 3 people a book that's signed, and even, well, we're going to say signed. There may be an extra special little goodie on it. But make sure you like, share, subscribe, because we're definitely going to be doing some great giveaways that Chris is going to give to us, that we can work out to the community, because we thank you for listening in. We thank you for watching and spreading the word. But Chris, now the San Francisco Giants comic.
Yes.
That's I'm a big baseball head, right? I'm from Florida originally, so I love my Marlins, but that was later in the game. Originally was a Houston Astros fan, which I still am. I'm still an Astros fan. I don't think they cheated, but hey, we'll leave that alone for right now.
Okay.
So how did that come about? And are you a big baseball fan?
I'm a Giants fan. I'll say that. I don't go to a lot of games, but I've always followed the Giants since I was a kid.
And having lived in Richmond for years and years, and going to the Oakland A's game, I've definitely found a love for the Oakland A's. But boy, those Oakland A's know how to make me angry.
Yep, that's true. Well, with the Giants, I've been in contact with, and I know Mel Smith, who is the publisher. And he's the one that approached me to be the inker on this. Brandon McKinney, also very talented penciler. He's mainly known for his animation work. Let me see if I can grab a copy of it here. He is known for his animation work mainly, but he has done some comics in the past as well. And so he did the pencils, and they sent me his work and a lot of photo reference of the Giants and Oracle Stadium, Oracle Ballpark, whatever.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's downtown, right downtown San Francisco, near the Embarcadero. It's right on the water.
It's right on the water.
I know Lyft is around the corner, so it's a beautiful, beautiful park. Right. I've been to it a few times.
It's very renowned now, and everybody loves it compared to
where it was. Yeah.
Disdain for Candlestick Park.
Yeah. So Chris, man, wow, you are still making great moves. We wish, I speak on behalf of the community, we wish you much, much success. We wish you continue to go on. We want to have you back when you get your next project. And hey, maybe that's an Image 31-year anniversary or 35-year. Who knows? Hopefully Marvel and DC will wise up and put you back on Nova and Spider-Man and Wonder Woman. That would be a great thing as well. But
there's always reprints.
Yeah, there are definitely reprints. And I know that the Wonder Woman story has been reprinted in trade paperback and hardcover, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure about the Spider-Man stories, but definitely the Amazing Spider-Man stories have been reprinted in hardback and in trade paperback. Yeah. So you guys out there listening, you can still go and read the story. You can still get some beautiful, beautiful art, or witness Chris's beautiful art. But also, if you want to commission, and I've gotten commissions from Chris, I've helped other people come through me to get to Chris to get some commissions. Hit Chris up at Instagram, hit him up at Facebook, get yourself some commissions, amazing prices, beautiful artwork. You're gonna see a few scroll by here in a few minutes of some of the just really amazing art that he's done. And so, ladies and gentlemen, Chris Marrinan, we appreciate you coming on Comic Book Hit List. Thank you very much. Thank all of you out there for listening and tuning in. Again, like, share, subscribe. We appreciate everything you guys do. We also know that we are on the other side of COVID. COVID is not over yet. So we ask you all to please remember to, if you're going to take the vaccination, please get your vaccination, get your booster shots. If not, please make sure you wear your masks, stay protected. We want to make sure we keep our elderly citizens protected as well. Make sure you continue to wash your hands. And again, if you're using those disposable masks, please put them in the trash can, man. I personally have done everything in my power to get rid of disposable masks, and I have my own comic book mask that I've having one of the tailors that I work with. She makes them for me, my family, friends. So I'm trying to not do anything with disposable, but stuff that I could wash. But anyway, let's all stay focused. Let's all stay safe and healthy. Again, Mr. Marrinan, thank you so much for spending the time with us. I appreciate it greatly. And if you don't mind, I'd like to have you on again sometime later in the year or later in the future.
I'm ready whenever you are, anytime.
Thank you very much. So everybody, again, please make sure you say a big thank you to Chris. Find him on Instagram, find him on Facebook, tell him you saw the show. Also like, share, subscribe. We appreciate it. This is your boy Cool Ty. And for my man Steve and his new baby Maxton, we wish you all the best. Stay healthy. We love you very much and have a great day.